So we're going to start off with Vicario, 6s all round from us. I mean, again, fairly quiet day for Vicario. I thought he dealt with everything he had to do pretty well. Some would say maybe he could have caught that from the back pass from Udogie, which would have led to an indirect free kick, but I'm not going to mark him down on that too much. I thought he did what he could do pretty well. Some good saves in there. But yeah, 6 only.
It was actually a relatively quiet day for Vicario. Didn't have too many saves.
We seem to be saying that every game.
Yeah, didn't have too many saves to make. The only little criticism I have for him is for that back pass for Udogie. I do think he could have slid in and actually got it with his feet if he thought quicker. I don't know if he had a little stumble. Obviously, it took him by surprise when it happened. But obviously, it led to the goal. But other than that, I thought his passing was pretty good, actually. He had some nice little clips out to the fullback and things like that. But a fairly quiet day for Vicario. Obviously, most of the play down the other end.
Yeah, let's move on to Pedro Porro, my man, the match from yesterday in a Spurs shirt. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. Look, I thought he was really good. Obviously, provided that brilliant corner, which Cuti Romero got his head to, and we went 1-0 up. And apart from that, I thought he was really good defensively, winning his duels time and time again, providing a creative outlet, coming into the middle, inverting into that centre midfield role, and providing some really good passes. He got a few shots off as well, which could have done better on the day. But yeah, Pedro Porro, by far our best player on the pitch yesterday.
I agree. Completely had Paquetá in his pocket as well. Dominated that side completely. Seemed to be our most creative player for large swaths of that game from the right-hand side as well. Obviously got the assist from the corner, which Romero ended up tucking away. Actually had 5 key passes on the day, Porro, which is more than anyone else on the pitch. Just goes to show how quality he is in those situations. So for me, another solid performance from Porro, and shame he was on the losing side.
Yeah. Next up, Cuti Romero back in the side after that 3-match ban. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. Obviously, very unfortunate with the goal where it just cannoned off him and cannoned off Davis and found Jarrod Bowen. But apart from that, I thought in the first half, he was doing a really good job pressing high up the pitch and helping us recycle that ball, winning the ball back time and time again in that middle of the park. He was defending really well throughout, just a few unfortunate moments, and was caught ball watching for that second goal as well. So that's why I just marked him down a little bit.
Yeah, I thought he was really back to his dominant best. Romero, obviously coming back from suspension, really impressed. I thought Kudus or Bowen, whoever was up front, really didn't have a kick. I thought he was pushing all the way up to halfway line. Anytime there was a duel between him and any attacker, he was coming out on top. I actually thought as well, he was entering the final third, and his passing in that area was pretty creative, was pretty good and accurate. I would say first goal, I don't know what he can do. The ball just hits him. He blocks a shot and it hits him, rebounds off Davis, and bam, it's a goal. The second one, obviously he's put in a bad position. Not much he can do, but he kind of just waits for the goal to go in rather than, reacting to it and trying to stop it. So that was a bit frustrating. But obviously there's not much he could have done anyway with it, even if he did react. But yeah, I thought it was a top performance from Romero. I was glad to have him back.
Nice to see him on the score sheet as well, and he gave a little apology to the fans as well for that sending off with his goal celebration. But let's move on to Ben Davis. 6s all round for Ben. I thought he had a fairly good display. Not too many complaints about him. I thought as well, similar to Romero, he was being aggressive. He was winning his duels. Defensively, I thought he gave us pretty much everything we needed. Look, West Ham hardly had any chances, so that shows how good the defence were playing. I just felt like maybe he could have done a bit more on the ball.
Yeah, I thought first half, I agree with you. I thought he was really good. And I actually thought, I was like, okay, Davis again, putting in a really good display. I thought he was actually stepping in ahead of Kudus quite often and being pretty dominant. I did feel like second half he struggled a bit more.
It was the aerial duels really in the second half.
Aerial duels, I mean, he lost out to Souček quite a few times on those aerial duels, and Kudus as well. I also felt like a few times players were starting to get a bit in behind him a bit more, and he was struggling to really dominate and be aggressive like he was in that first half. Not to say he was a massive liability, but I'm just saying he struggled a lot more than he did in the first half, which led to West Ham getting a bit more joy. For either goal, again, don't see what he can really do. It just hits him. He's in close proximity to Romero for the first one, so there's not much he can really do to allow it to bounce into Bowen's path. But yeah, I think he did okay, but still, that second half made me a bit worried.
Destiny Udogie up next. Him gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. And in the first half, I thought he was one of our best players, to be honest. I thought he was really aggressive on that left-hand side, winning the ball back countless amount of times, defensively, properly on point. A couple of tackles in there, interceptions in there, charging up the pitch as well, really contributing to the build-up play. Second half, I thought it did go down a little bit, but the reason I've marked him down massively, to be honest, is because of that stupid pass that lost the game for us. There is no excuse to do that at all. I know he's a young player, not that much experience in the Premier League, but there is just no excuse whatsoever. The laziest of laziest passes that you kind of don't assume that Destiny Udogie will do that. Plays Jared Bowen in, and it's a goal, and we lose the game from there, and that goal just knocked the stuffing out of us completely.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I thought overall he was having a decent game before that moment, albeit maybe could have been getting in a bit more positions on the touchline. I felt a few times as well he was getting to the byline and didn't cut it back. He thought he would just keep possession and recycle possession, and maybe once or twice would have been nice just to see if he can create an opportunity from those positions. And he was a bit rash a couple other times as well in that second half. There was one with the obviously the goal that we conceded, but there was a few other moments where he's running to set, he's caught out position, looking to track back, and he's a bit rash when making tackles. So look, I felt second half again maybe ran out of energy. Obviously, he's still a young player. It's going to take time for him to really get that proper consistency in his game. But we know what quality he has. It's just, he's not, again, I feel like, not saying he's been terrible recently, but he's not going for the best period as well at the moment. Not as good as he was in the first 10 games.
It seems as though, like a bit like Bissouma, since that red card against Chelsea, his performances have dropped a little bit, which is unfortunate. But let's move on to Bissouma now. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. Started off in the number 6 position. I did feel it was better than what we saw against Man City, but still nowhere near the Bissouma that we saw in the first 10 games of the season. I thought there were like kind of flashes in there where we saw a few moments of maybe the same kind of style, but all in all, I wasn't really impressed with Bissouma. Just a few little flashes in there.
Yeah, I think first half he was pretty good, actually. I was pretty happy with his first half performance. I thought he did really well for Spurs to maintain control. I just felt like in the second half he got a bit sloppy. Started playing the ball out of play a couple of times. And also I remember there's one occasion he let the ball roll under his foot and he recovered the situation, but nearly let West Ham win possession in his own half. I don't think he did, apart from that, I don't think he did too much wrong. But again, not that confident Bissouma that we know he can be. I felt like we saw flashes of it in the first half, and I thought he was pretty good. But yeah, second half, it waned a bit, unfortunately. So only a 6.
Moving on to Giovanni Lo Celso. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I actually did think he played really well in that first half. He was our chief creator from the middle of the park. I think 3 or 4 key passes on the day. It was unfortunate he went off, because after he went off, we just had no sort of creativity from that middle of the park. I thought it was the wrong decision from Ange. But yeah, he needs to stay in the team because he's the only one in that midfield at the moment that can create if Kulusevski's not there. Yeah,
agreed. I thought first half he was good. I thought he was, again, looking really creative, looking really sharp. Had a shot which was tipped wide by Fabianski, was getting in some really good areas. But second half, obviously, without Ange saying it today, I probably would have said, oh, maybe he took him off because he was tired. But he said he took him off because he wanted extra legs. It was a tactical decision. And that would have frustrated me. But I did feel like he was a bit hesitant as well in that second half. Like a couple of occasions he could have had a go or had a shot from decent positions, and he decided just to have that extra pass and not pull the trigger. And maybe Andrew was getting frustrated with that as well. But if we could have made more use of his good work in the first half, we could have been okay. But unfortunately, it didn't quite happen. So gave him a 7.
Moving on to DEKI, Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 4. And like I keep saying in this stream, I was so frustrated with Dejan Kulusevski yesterday. You know what you're going to get with DEKI. Tireless running, non-stop running throughout the game. He started on the right. He moved into the centre, went back out to the right. And I don't think he played well in any of the positions that he played yesterday. A lot of the times he was seeing the ball on the right-hand side, cutting in on his left every time without any real end product. He did have a couple of key passes on the day, but it was just an extremely, extremely frustrating performance from Dejan Kulusevski. And I feel like I don't know why. I kind of do, because I thought Brian Hill hasn't pulled up any trees in the last couple of games, but Kulusevski has played his best 2 games of the season in the middle of the park, so creative, so hard to deal with. And I felt like moving back out to the right regressed a little bit his performance level.
Yeah, I thought in the first half he looked pretty decent. I thought he was actually getting on the ball quite a lot, and West Ham were finding it difficult to stop him in terms of not stop him scoring or anything like that. Obviously he didn't score, but like stop him getting in dangerous positions like as he does. And he was getting in good positions and then laying it off for other people, and his final ball into the box wasn't very good, but it was always going to be difficult with West Ham kind of clogging up that box with the defenders they got. I thought second half his performance declined quite a lot. I think he did win a free kick in a dangerous position, but other than that, I mean, he did have that one cross near the end, which was a dangerous position, and he completely wasted. Didn't have too many efforts on goal as well. And also when he moved, he had a little spell centrally, but before he actually moved back out wide, and unfortunately probably not there for long enough, but didn't do too much in that position either, but wasn't very long. But I thought there were spells where he was looking decent on the ball, but again, the final product wasn't there, so 6.
Pierre-Emile Højbjerg up next. Him gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. Didn't really feel the need to have him and Bissouma both in a central in the midfield 3. Thought it lacked creativity. And Højbjerg, he was doing some nice combative work, winning the ball back in the middle of the park, and some nice spraying the balls out left and right, but there was no incisive cutting-edge passes down through the middle through him, and that was a massive downplay. And if you're in the number 8 position, you have to make the most out of the ball that you do have, and you need to create chances for the likes of Heung-min Son and get the wingers in behind potentially as well, which he just didn't do. And I felt like he started the game well, and he was just basically on a downward trajectory throughout the whole game.
Yeah, I think as the game gets even more congested and he has to be even quicker with his passing and he has to be even more accurate with his passing, that's where he falls down a bit, Højbjerg, and that's when he starts giving it away and he starts, having a bit of a frustrating game, to be honest. I think when he's in the centre of the park, and he's obviously he's a very good off the ball, and I think he was good off the ball yesterday, but when he's asked to spray a long pass, he's asked when he's got time on the ball, he can do good things, but when he's asked to quicken it up, when he's asked to show quality and speed and quickness of decision making and have a picture in your mind of where players are and where the space is, he's just not that player. And I think a lot of the times we're asking him to be a player who's helping us break down West Ham in a low block, and he just wasn't up to it. He didn't have the quality to do it. And a lot of the time as well, I felt like when West Ham are winning the ball on the edge of their own area and springing a counter-attack, a lot of the time was Højbjerg giving it away, but wasn't a great display from him in terms of what we need from that position.
If you're going to play Højbjerg and Bissouma in the same team, I would have liked to have seen Højbjerg being the one a bit more, as the number 6, and maybe Bissouma being a bit further forward, because we know what Bissouma can bring, that insane dribbling ability when he's on form. So why not just stick Bissouma a bit higher up the pitch and have Højbjerg sitting as the number 6? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it's also could be a solution we could find.
But let's move on to Heung-min Son. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 4. Contrasting ratings here for Heung-min Son, but I just felt like he had such a lack of service. There was a few good moments in terms of his link-up play, and his energy and effort were there for all to see. But I just felt like he was pretty anonymous throughout the game, to be honest, just because of his lack of service.
See, I didn't agree with that. I actually thought his hold-up play was actually pretty good on the day. I thought he was let down a lot by his teammates. I thought he was actually making some pretty good movements as well without being found. But I actually thought when the ball was fizzed into him, I was surprised how he was actually able to hold on to it a lot and bring other players into play and play some really good passes himself in deeper positions. As I say, his all-round game's really improving.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It, and I think he showed evidence of that. In terms of goal scoring, though, he had a couple of efforts, one from the edge of the box, which didn't really trouble Fabianski, I think straight down his throat. And then he did have one moment in the second half. He could have pulled the trigger early, decided not to. And then he did pick up an injury as well. Obviously, he had a little spell back on the left, which he had been early in the season. Didn't have, I think he was there only for a bit before he picked up an injury, so can't really judge him too much. But I actually think just based on his hold-up play and bringing other players into play, I actually thought it was pretty good. So I gave him a 7.
Last but not least of the starting 11, Brennan Johnson. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 4. Another one that really frustrated me yesterday in Brennan Johnson. To be fair to him, he was causing West Ham problems. He was getting in good positions. He was beating his man as well on occasions, but it's just his end product, man, was just frustrating me so much. The crosses was never finding a man. Every time he took a shot as well, it seemed to be mishit. It was just such a frustrating day for Brennan. And for a day like that against West Ham, when we've got all the possession, you need to be more clinical than that in the final third. And that goes for him and Kulusevski, to be honest. And I do get a feeling a bit with Brennan, though, like if he can just improve that end product, we're going to have some player on our hands.
Yeah, because he's clearly, very, very quick. He's actually quite broad as well for a 22-year-old winger. I just feel like he's still very raw. I think you can see that at the moment. Some of his touches sometimes get away from his finishing is still a bit wayward. He had a couple of opportunities in that first half to cut inside and shoot, and the finishes were poor. He had that volley in the second half, which went absolutely nowhere, when that could have been a good opportunity as well. When he's asked to kind of get to the byline and set up a chance, and when he goes on the outside, I don't know how much he likes to use his left foot, because didn't really show anything. But as you say, I thought a lot of the times the ball would go to him and you'd get off your seat because you think something's going to happen, and he is looking dangerous, and he is very, very direct. That's what you've got to give him credit for. He's very direct at running at people and going for a shot or trying to make something happen when he has the ball. Very rarely he gets the ball and just lays it back to the fullback or something. He always likes to try and do something. But on the flip side, that could lead to him being wasteful sometimes, and he definitely was that yesterday on a few occasions. But he did look a bit dangerous on sometimes, so I gave him a 6.
Let's move on to the substitutes. Ollie Skip, who came on for Giovanni Lo Celso, I believe. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. I mean, it's just night and day what Gio and Skip can provide from an attacking output on the pitch. He came on and made a difference against City and really impacted the game there. But in this game, I mean, he put himself about a little bit, but he just doesn't have that quality, that attacking quality to really help us break down West Ham. And I think that showed yesterday.
Yeah, he just didn't do what we needed him to do, to be honest. I think, obviously, maybe he came on with instructions to win the ball back and try and help suffocate West Ham. And he did a bit of that, but what we really needed him to do was provide quality on the ball and provide a threat to West Ham, and that's what he didn't do. And that's for me, that's the difficult thing. So I only gave him a 5.
In terms of Richarlison up next, Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. I mean, he came on in a time where we really needed him, really needed a goal. He just wasn't in the game that much after he came on. It says here he only had 8 touches throughout. He was running around and putting himself about a little bit, but that big chance does fall to him at the back post, and he's got to be doing better. He's got to be doing better. That's normally his bread and butter, those heading opportunities from those kind of situations, and it goes wide. And if he does score, you never know what can happen in the game, but he misses a really big chance.
Yeah, I think we would have gone 2-1 up at that point, wouldn't we? So definitely would have changed a lot of stuff if Rishi puts that away. Yeah, apart from that chance, I don't remember too much he had, really. The ball was very rarely played into the box while he was on. He partnered Valise for a bit as well, but didn't just struggle to really impact the game. A couple of occasions he tried a bit of hold-up play, but was few and far between. He just wasn't really involved apart from that one chance.
And now the manager, Ange Postecoglou, the lowest rating that we have given him all season. It's 5s all round. I did feel like he got team selection wrong. I felt he should have kept Kulusevski in the middle. And game management as well. I think for the first time, actually, I'm saying this, where I felt like the changes weren't the right changes to impact the game. I don't think he should have took off Giovanni Lo Celso, especially for Ollie Skip. Albeit, I do acknowledge that he's going through a really difficult time with the numbers that he has available to him, and he is kind of hamstrung with the options that he does have off the bench. But I do feel like Gio probably should have stayed on.
Yeah, I mean, personally, that's what I would have liked to have seen. I actually did think his subs did positively impact the game, funnily enough, for a period, until West Ham got the goal against run of play, and unfortunately that goes against us. So I do have a bit of sympathy for him. Obviously, with the lineup as well, personally, I would have liked to have seen a lineup that would have led to a bit more creativity and a bit conducive to opening up West Ham. Unfortunately, that didn't quite happen again. He played Højbjerg, and it did lead to a very controlled first half. But again, a lack of cutting edge it led to. So it's difficult to say what would have happened if we did start Hill and Kulusevski. Maybe we could have got a few more goals, but maybe we would have left the back door open a bit more for West Ham. I don't know. But in terms of performance, it was just frustrating how the game went, and he wasn't able to change it and get us the 3 points. I don't think he did too much wrong, just because he's got his hands tied behind his back a lot. But I think if he had his time back, he might have done things a bit differently. Yeah,
agreed. So that is our player ratings from the game against West Ham. 2-1 defeat at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Let me know your player ratings in the comments section below.